This is Camson, and I am bringing to you New Earth News live, where we are co-creating the new verses, the song our soul came to sing. I want to talk to you about the human cost of the digital revolution. Now, I was inspired to create over 16 hours of a lecture pertaining to this topic. That began in 2019. Those lectures are now becoming more concrete today. I'm going to share some of the article, and then I'm going to tell you about an experience that I had yesterday. Now, there is a term called techno-stress. And techno-stress is the impact that the new digital age is having on our mind, body, and ultimately our souls. Chronic stress is actually a new normal. This is why we flock to authors and people and lectures and videos and gurus and tarot card readers and psychic mediums to gather answers, because we feel this collective chronic stress, but oftentimes we see it around us so much, it's almost like, oh, I guess this is the norm. And then you get on one of your devices and get online and you find someone who's saying, I have the solution to this stress. And so you're delving deeper into figuring out what is causing this chronic stress to continue to grow despite anything that you have been doing to reduce it. So Forbes headline discussed chronic stress. And the author of the article is Joanne Griffin, and she said it stopped her in her tracks, which is what happened to me yesterday. Now, I'm going to read a portion of this to you, and the link will be available on Mighty Networks for you to read the rest of this article. And I highly recommend that you really take your time and read through this article if your intention is to continue to remove the anchors from the old 3D earth, which is where the hell is being unleashed, so that you can continue to let that be chipped away from your existence to co-create with the new earth. So we may still be here at location, but we will be in a different frequency, which will allow us to have a different experience, even though we may be going through some of the same things others are going through on the planet. It's all about how it affects you, and that goes down to the energetic spiritual anatomy, which is what I have been teaching about. Now, it says, when our resources are overwhelmed for weeks or months on end, we experience chronic stress, resulting in depleted energy, negative emotions, and lower productivity. Worrying, chronic stress is the last warning sign before burnout. While employee burnout is steadily increasing, global productivity has slumped since the internet went mainstream. Organizations are spooked. 90% of employers are committing to greater investments in mental health, stress, and resilience training, along with mindfulness and meditation programs. How interesting is that? So this is when I was talking about the bifurcation of the earth and the necessary steps which happen in the four-dimensional space, which is the bridge to those of us who are ascending into a higher experience, becoming our divine selves and releasing our identity to allow our divinity to be the main force that leads us. And so what's happening is, as the karma of these planets, Malbec, Saturn. We've talked about this with the 13 moon prophecies, the 9-year prophecies based on the Mayan calendar, depicting what was going to be happening. Yes, the ancients knew what we were going to go through. And that's why they did so much to infuse the knowledge and the tools necessary to help us for this future moment to them that is the present for us. Now, them having to have meditation programs and mindfulness and resilience training, that's usually something that's considered spiritual and is separate from the business and commerce scene. As you can see, this is the 5D Earth shifting into the 3D Earth matrix, which is what is termed as the bifurcations of two Earths. And so I know that term may have been a little confusing to some people who may be new to the New Verse Live. But in this world, the goal is to simplify things, especially in a year 7 that is already filled with complexity. Now, this article goes on to say that Band-Aids will no longer help. This is also reflecting and affecting our relationship status. And it's getting more complex. Each of us had a complicated relationship with stress. It can be intoxicating and toxic all at once. A Hungarian endocrinologist called Hans Selye lived from 1907 to 1982, dubbed the father of stress, was the first to provide a scientific explanation for biological stress. He described stress that negatively affects us as distress, while stress that has a positive impact he called EU stress. That's interesting, EU. In small doses, stress can help us stay alert. It fuels motivation, and it also supports us as we adapt to new experiences. However, when the scales are tipped towards distress, we feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and depleted. Selye broke down his model of stress into 3 distinct stages. Originally called GAS, G-A-S, General Adaptation Syndrome. Now colloquially known as the stress response. As we move through each stage, our resistance to stress changes as follows. Now I'm going to read a little bit of this to you, and again, the article will be posted for you to continue. When a stressor is detected, and this is stage 1, the alarm system, the body responds with a fight or flight response. The sympathetic nervous system is stimulated, and the body's resources are mobilized to meet the perceived threat or danger. Now, we see this happening with countries, as I have been predicting as well. This is also happening inside of us. So these civil wars are popping up everywhere. And it's a reflection of what's inside. Remember, as within, so without. Stage 2 is resistance. The body focuses resources in dealing with the stressor and remains on high alert until the threat subsides. In this stage, we are easily triggered, easily frustrated, and sometimes can say things that we regret later, or don't say things that we know we probably should have spoken, like enforcing boundaries. And we're going to discuss that on the podcast tonight. Stage 3 is the exhaustion stage. If the stresses continue to overwhelm the body's capacity, our resources become exhausted. This stage is the home of chronic stress and eventually burnout. I've been very transparent about these experiences, and I went into burnout coming into the Lioness Gate portal because I worked for the last 2 years without taking a break. No days off. None. Unless my body shut down and I just couldn't do anything. And even on those days, I still had things on my to-do list that I was getting done. but it was to the detriment of my health. All right. So this is why it's so important for us to apply the practices that are being given to us to relieve this, because as we release and relieve and let go of some of the things that create stress within us, the blockages remove themselves. Now, the hypothalamus, all right, third eye, pineal, pituitary gland are all affected by this, y'all. The sympathetic nervous system is going to increase the heart rate, and it's going to release fuel, cortisol, to help us fight or flee from danger. Now, this is going to redirect blood flow to the heart, muscles, and brain, but away from the digestive processes. So for some of us who have been noticing some digestive discomfort, oftentimes it's because of something emotional that's happening within your emotional matrix. Now, to accommodate these demands, there's a vast increase in energy production and utilization of nutrients and the fluids in the body. This is one of the roots of dehydration. Drink plenty of water, y'all. Now, once the stressful situation has passed, the brain signals these responses to be turned off, and it finally recovers into a relaxation state of being to reestablish balance or homeostasis in all your systems. In the tarot card reading I did for the collective when I woke up the other day, and I very rarely do tarot card readings for the collective as soon as I wake up. But my guides and my divine self made it clear to me it needed to happen immediately. And the first card that I pulled was for us to practice relaxation. That is a spiritual practice. Now, on the other side of this, because of our devices, what happens is when the perceived threats don't dissipate, you're going into the relentless bombardment of fear and uncertainty, which I'm going to really delve into tonight on the podcast. These different stressors bombarding you turn you into a person who feels like they're out in the wild, in the jungle, being chased by lions, or in the woods being chased by black bears. You could be sitting, working, you could be sitting and eating, sitting and watching TV, scrolling through the feed on your phone, at the same time feeling this tiger chasing you. These lions and tigers and bears, you feel it. You feel the anxiety, the tension, the anticipation. Your mind starts to ruminate. Now you're catastrophically thinking and worrying about what is happening. Why is my heart beating so fast? Why do I feel so overcome with loneliness? Why am I feeling so fearful? Why do I feel so uncomfortable about my sense of self? Why do I feel lost? I don't know who I am. It's so many layers to this happening at one time, and your body is being flooded with these stressor hormones. If you're being chased by a lion, your stomach can't digest food because that's not the time to digest. And a lot of us grew up eating while watching TV, and that was the norm. And that's how we used to deal with stress. But we now know better that if you slip into a state of being unaware and not being mindful, and you're experiencing these stressors and you're using a 3D earth habit to try to resolve it, you actually are bombarding yourself with more reasons to be stressed. So your stomach can't process food to give you nutrients. So now you become malnourished, not because you're not altering your diet to adapt to the level of consciousness that you desire to be in, eating high frequency foods, which we have listed on our Patreon, on pretty much all tiers. It's so important, but we may be doing that, but are you getting the nutrients? You know, if you feel triggered often, if you feel like you're being attacked, if you just have these negative thoughts just on loop, your body is creating stressor hormones as that is happening, and that must be addressed. And many of us are just now figuring our own self out to even create healthy ways to address this. So you don't recover. You're going from one work day to the next, from one to school or whatever it is that you have to do, raising your kids. Like, it's so much, and we're doing it every day, and that stress is accumulating because we're not getting a resolution. Chronic stress is insidious, and it can sneak up on us when we're busy keeping all the balls in the air for an extended amount of time. The price we pay is significant. Prolonged cortisol levels can lead to a loss of long-term memory. Have anybody else noticed this? And harm our attention and our executive functioning, which we have been talking about off and on due to something that's coined as high-functioning Asperger's. But what I have found is that pretty much everybody in my life have at least 2 or more of those traits. And poor executive functioning skills is one of the reasons it's difficult for us to prioritize healthy habits for ourselves, healthy habits in our relationships, healthy habits in the way we communicate with our partner, being able to make decisions like which bill do I need to pay first, or which task do I need to address first so that I can be more relaxed because I've taken care of things that are a priority. When you're in fight or flight and when you're going through chronic stress that's not being resolved and it's accumulating, it's going to be difficult to process priorities. And you will find yourself having priorities that really were not priorities. And the negative impact of making a decision while experiencing some memory loss and executive functioning issues, being in fight or flight, being triggered, being angry and upset. Well, we know that for every action, there is a reaction, right? And so every cause has an effect. And because manifestation has sped up, oftentimes that boomerangs back to us fairly quickly, and you realize, like, okay, that wasn't the, decision that should have been prioritized for me to make. And then you go into feeling bad or guilty or ashamed, and it's just like this carousel of distress. And it's like, where do I get off? When do I get off? And how do I get off, right? So we will shut out any new information coming in and ideas. And this is what our spirit guides. Your divine self may be telling you, listen, it's time for you to just surrender to that thing or let go of that thing or admit to this secret habit that you have that you know is not healthy. It's time for you to talk to someone you can trust that cares for you, to have someone to help you be accountable for this habit that may be potentially destroying the future you're investing so much time and energy into creating, right? This is a subconscious self-sabotaging program that a lot of us operate in, and this is part of the awakening process. So it's not a bad thing. It's useful. It's a lesson. And it's an exam that we take to get to the next level in our experience. So what happens is your spirit guides may be communicating to you, your ancestors, your divine self, God, Goddess, universe, the prime creator, however you perceive creation may be communicating with you, but you're stuck in a state of being defensive. So you're not in receptive mode. You're in, I got to fight everything coming at me, block everything coming at me, or even wall myself completely off from the world. And in that state, communication with spirit is pretty much one of the most difficult things to accomplish. And this is why, being an oracle, I spent a lot of my time in solitude and meditation. In the past, when I was in the 3D Matrix program of my sense of identity, I forfeited that time alone because it felt like loneliness or people said that it was selfish for me to pull away and not come to their birthday parties or not come to the baby shower or not come to the get-together, whatever it was. In the past, I felt guilty, and I would go on a guilt trip with them and be like, okay, I'm going to go. And then I would be depleted when I got back because I'm an empath, a very powerful empath who didn't have the tools and didn't know how to protect herself, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight on the podcast as well. So now solitude is how I keep myself in alignment, because this is not just a business for me. This is my life's purpose, my soul's mission. This is the reason throughout any religion or spiritual practices I've practiced, I was able to see into the future and give maps, road maps for us to create the path that's going to best be a healing experience versus re-traumatizing ourselves and others. And so this is why recently, I'm not being paid on a couple of platforms anymore, and I'm continuing to do this work. And I know that it's going to pay off very soon. It's already paying off, because touching hearts to reactivate the heart to come online so that you can hear your heart and feel your emotions and connect with your intuition and allow the inner guiding system to help you navigate this chaos. That is power and value. That is prosperity and wealth. Spiritual prosperity, spiritual abundance. So in this new digital age, the experience of lack and scarcity by seeing what the Joneses are doing is right in front of you all day, every day. And this is the time to begin creating new routines to support the new you, to be able to anchor the new you to stay in the present moment. So it's not this future thing you're always reaching for and seeking, and it leads to seeking love in all the wrong places and causing people around us to feel as if they're the problem, because we're in so much pain from the accumulation of stress from day after day, month after month, year after year. It's difficult to be in relationship with the heart. Many of us, our inner child doesn't feel safe enough to be present with us. So we're forced to use old 3D earth ways to navigate our life and the obstacles, because the creative that's connected to the inner child, the sacral chakra and your right brain hemisphere, it's locked up. It is completely enslaved to the 3D matrix programs. And to unplug from this, remember the techno stress in the matrix that they experienced when they would first plug in? So we're unplugging in from the 3D matrix as we're plugging into a higher level of voltage of the 5D earth we're co-creating, right? And this is also the reason that we have become energy vampires, because being disconnected from spirit, being disconnected from source, the prime creative energy of all things seen and unseen, you're malnourished. And you feel the emptiness. You feel the experience of, my life could have much more intimacy than it does, but there's something blocking that, right? And that blockage is the ego trying to protect us from these threats that are happening nonstop. Back in the day when we didn't have these devices, you might run into somebody at school and have a negative interaction. You might get home and something is on the news that causes a negative reaction. But we would get a break in between, and the walk home from school, you had time to be one with nature and not really have to deal with that. I mean, unless you was walking through the hood like I was, then you were navigating a lot of lions and tigers and bears, And even if that is your story, you have even more accumulation of this stress that was unprocessed. However, some of the things we were doing unconsciously before this new level of awakening and coming to the new earth, it was helping us. So this is why now we have to spend more time in nature, because maybe we're not walking home from school. Maybe we're not having to catch the bus or walk to work or catch the subway or the train, right? And because of the lockdown, a lot of us became stationary, and these sedentary lifestyles was imposed upon us, some of us, because of having this sickness, right? And so there are people reporting something they're calling long COVID haul symptoms. If you are part of the Patreon, you have the real red pill news on that. So I'm not going to get into that here, okay? That this is not the space for that. But if you want to stay in the know and get the New Earth news, follow the links in the description to do so. And we have tiers for anyone in any socioeconomic level right now, because we know that there's a mass migration of people moving from jobs to things that they're passionate about. And sometimes in those stages, there's a change in the flux of our money, our income flow. So we are geared to be able to reach as many people as possible with this information. Now, if this was good, you definitely want to go ahead and click the link below and get in for the podcast tonight. This is soul nourishment, and it's so necessary, because what we do today is an energy that is going to impact the next day for the rest of this incarnation. The energy that I am reading is another separation of those who will be new earthers and old earthers. So remember, two people can be in the same bed, in the same house, and have two separate spiritual, physical, emotional, mental states of being. One of them can be in the carousel of distress with stressors, using 3D earth tools to find some relief in the form of habits that are no longer supporting us, keeping us stuck from being the best version of us. And the other person could be doing breath work and meditating, journaling, ceremonies, grounding, sun gazing, sunbathing, stargazing, so many things, checking into their astrology, tuning into their body scanning to see if there are areas of my body that are calling for my attention, and actually massaging your body and stretching to release the stress. Two people, same bed, same house, two separate experiences. That is the most simple way I can give you a visual for what I'm talking about when I say the bifurcation of two earths. 3D earth, 5D earth. All right. So we are going to be joining you all at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Be sure to convert that to wherever you are. I know that we have some people who are 3-4 hours or more different from us. So just set an alarm and make sure that you don't miss tonight's podcast. This is going to be one of the most pivotal moments for new earthers, determined to love themselves more radically, to become more resilient without using the 3D Earth tools that are weaponized tools that are a disservice to our authentic selves. New me stay.